G'day Forum, today we're going through the Australian film.
Tell us about your best mate, Kev.
Kev is a sicker. Kev's got a big dicker.
Wolf Creek, directed by Greg McLean. Regarding this film's claims to being based on a true story, relates to the crimes of Ivan Milat, which this film is definitely more inspired by, as Wolf Creek is genuinely a real place in Western Australia, but Ivan lived and performed his works in Sydney. But this video isn't about that, as we're going over the narrative aspects of the film, but I just wanted to disclose that information quickly, so let's get into it. The film is centralised around a group of backpackers driving across Western Australia and stopping at a location called Wolf Creek. Well, two of the girls are English backpackers, and I'm not really sure what the guy's relation is to them. I believe he's just a friend they've made in their travels in Australia and is accompanying them while they're there. The movie is quick to establish the environment in a way that I find pretty realistic, considering the fact that I actually live in Australia. When Ben is checking the newly purchased shitbox at a mechanic.
How long's this gonna take, mate?
Not long.
How long's not long?
Well, I've almost got it. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
While on the road trip, we obviously get used to the characters and become familiar with them, coming off very likeable and realistic, especially Ben, who just seems like a top bloke. Their chemistry is palpable, and you kinda understand a little why this became such a controversial film, as from the style of filming and acting can really take away from the narrative aspect at points, making it feel very real. And there's so many visually nice shots as well to build the atmosphere and set up the environment, as this film obviously didn't have a large blockbuster budget and relied upon the environment for storytelling purposes to a certain degree, and I think it's pulled off really well. This movie has the necessary horror road trip fuel stop scene, where some bloody old fellas in the pub next door kinda harass them for a bit, but not much really comes from this scene besides hinting at what's to come further down the line. They arrive at Wolf Creek, where they are going to go see a meteor crater, which, let's be straight up, is just a 3-hour hike to see the same thing. During the hike, Ben and Liv have a believable and slightly set up romantic arc, but not everything is rainbows and sunshine, because when they get back to the car to leave, it won't start.
What's wrong?
I don't know. Did we leave the lights on? No.
This can kinda slide if there's no more stupid shit that comes up like this later in the movie, but this could easily be a sneaky writer's trick in order to have the protagonist stuck stranded in a helpless environment. When suddenly they all spooked from a sudden flash of light coming from in the bush. But this comes in the form of us meeting our antagonist, as they quickly realise it's a car and speak to the driver.
Ben's an Aussie though.
Yeah? Where you from, mate?
Sydney.
Poof, the capital of Australia. Just playing with your tiger. Never been over there myself.
They perceive him as a stereotypical Australian and trust him to a certain degree, as he offers them a choice. In order to fix their car, they have to get towed by him back to his shed, where they try to bargain to be dropped into town, but get talked out of it.
You want to go north?
Yeah.
I'm heading south.
Yeah.
Bit of a bugger.
Yeah.
They fold to this decision after him exclaiming he doesn't want any pay from them after fixing their car. But on the tow ride there, they become very distressed about the time of the drive to the shed, and start to slightly distrust Mick and have second thoughts. When they arrive at Mick's shed, they all sit and converse by a fire, where there is a scene where Ben kinda makes Mick snap a little bit by his disgust towards Ben's personality.
What do you actually do? Now.
I can tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Then Liz starts bugging Mick while he's fixing the car for some reason.
Obviously it would be great to get going as soon as possible.
Shut your bitch ass up!
And when she returns to her sleeping bag and lies down, she realises Ben and Christy are asleep, and she quickly passes out as well, obviously drugged from the drinks Mick gave them. I bet you can guess what this marks the start of, as we focus on Liz, who is able to escape her bondage and gives us some pretty tense and well shot scenes as she tries to figure out what's going on and where her friends are. She finds Christy relatively quickly, who Mick is torturing, and distracts him by lighting fire to the car and gas canister, giving her time to sneak into the shed not before Mick quickly returning. But Liz picks up his rifle, threatening him.
Now, Lizzie, a rifle in the wrong hands can be, really dangerous, so give me the fucking...
And fires, grazing his neck, and doesn't finish the job, as she just throws a few body shots at him after he falls. Obviously a decision that'll come back to bite her. With Mick's keys, they take his truck and try to flee, but Mick quickly recovers and pursues in another truck. If only Liz just finished the job. And the truck that they steal runs out of fuel conveniently, but they manage to use this to their advantage by wrecking the car and disguising their death from that and furthering their escape. And this is where the movie really starts to fumble, because Liz wants to go back to the sheds to try find Ben, who at this point has been pushed to the sidelines completely and leaves Christy behind. When doing this, she finds a shrine, further revealing more about Mick's character and past actions and crimes, but gets a little worn out as we spend around 10 minutes of Liz just going into random rooms and places with having not much value other than Mick lore. Furthering this idea, she finds an area where he stashes all his victims' belongings, which I thought first leading into this scene was going to be some type of personal information on Mick, which could have been a cool direction, but it's not the one chosen. And she chooses to run away again in another car. First thing, how many cars does this bloke have? This decision I cannot understand, as it wasn't the reason she came back in the first place was to find Ben, but decides to leave without him anyway. This decision ultimately leads to her demise, as I guess it was just too many stupid mistakes. This kind of comes in the slight form of Ivan Milat tribute, as Mick severs her spine, a similar style to how a lot of his victims were treated in real life. So we focus on Christy, who decides to start running along the road to try find help after waiting for Liz, and actually manages to get someone to pull over and help her. Not before Mick making his encore though and shooting the person helping him from long distance, giving us a pretty cool intense scene. She drives off in the car, but Mick easily stops her, even toying while pursuing her in his car, leading to the end for Christy as well. But we finally get to see Ben in the literal last 10 minutes of the film, where he makes his escape as well, and instead of doing any bullshit, just dips and goes to try find some help, with once again some really nice cinematography, but I am just a sucker for eclipse shots. Time passes and we see him faint from exhaustion as he is found by, ironically, some backpackers and taken to a hospital, leading to the ending, which comes in the form of an epilogue, where it's revealed that Ben was accused of the murders and incarcerated for 4 months before the charges being dropped, and no further arrests or leads were made after the events, giving us the true final scene, the Freddy head chopped off winking, meaning the setup for the next film and the villain's survival. This can probably be considered a classic and pioneer for modern Australian horror films, and I believe it definitely deserves the praise it gets. 7 out of 10.
My friend Swan and I came out of the tattoo parlour and there were these two wogs fighting, and the fatter wog said to the skinnier wog, "Oi bro, you slept with my cousin, eh?" And the other one said, "Nah man, I didn't for shit, eh?" The other one goes, "I will call on my fully sick boys," and then they pulled out a gun and just went boom.